County Council Workshop for September 9th, 2025, and I'm going to turn it straight over to management. Our first item is discussion regarding the road strategic framework.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We're excited to be here tonight for a brief workshop. We're going to kick it off with our Assistant Manager, Tom Couch, over Development Services, introducing tonight's first presentation, which is about a road strategic framework. And our engineering team's here as well to be a part of this presentation, and we're excited to have this conversation with you. With that, Tom.
Thank you very much, Mr. County Manager. Good evening, council members. I'm going to be doing a little duet with the Assistant County Engineer, Patrick Hamilton. I think the order of the presentation will be, I'll be the appetizer, he'll be the entree, and I'll come back and be the dessert. But what I'd like to do is just make a little bit of an opening salvo. And let me go back to, I'm sorry, got ahead of myself. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, you'll notice in this circle here, we've tried to create this presentation with some themes. And as you go around the circle, it's plan, fund, maintain, and deliver. We're sincere in trying to make a presentation to you where we want to try to pave the way to the future with a good, solid local roads program. Although Mr. Hamilton will be giving a brief presentation on Pennies for Progress, most of the content will revolve around local roads. So that we're going to discuss. And as we lead into strategic plan review, I just want to go over briefly, I'm not going to read it verbatim, but this is our quality infrastructure goal along with our strategies. And while the strategies tend to be comprehensive, our focus again this evening is going to be on roads. So we think it's important to share this slide with you. We do have some problems or issues that we need to address. I think we'll show as we go on into the program, talking about local roads, you'll find that nearly a third of our roads are rated in a poor condition, and that ultimately that results in drivers having concerns with potholes, road maintenance, and other things that occur when you have deteriorating pavement conditions. So what we're trying to do tonight is propose a structured local roads program where in 5 years, everyone will see and feel a difference. Okay, so this is where Mr. Hamilton begins with the entree, and he's going to go over first sources of road funding.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, Council. We're going to go through Pennies is obviously a source of funding, C-Fund program, and then our county road program. So we're going to talk a little bit about each of the items here. So Pennies for Progress, hopefully y'all are all familiar with the program. It's a 1% sales tax. Projects are voted on through a referendum, of course voted on by the public. Our tax has to be renewed every 7 years, and we just started our huge investment over the last almost 30 years to the road system within the county. Quick update on Pennies 5. All Pennies 5 projects are active and in the design phase. And SCDOT has already bid out 15 miles worth of repaving from the Pennies 5 list. And some of those roads are already active under construction, doing some patching and whatnot. So that would not be possible without the loan that y'all approved to us earlier this year. So thank you again for that. That has allowed the Pennies 5 program to hit the ground running and already be started. Another big, probably one of the biggest projects we've ever had is Highway 2151 in the Fort Mill area, 5-lane widening on that. That was awarded by council last week. We actually had the pre-construction meeting earlier today on that project. So we anticipate that work being able to get started probably early part of October. Again, that was one where we bid out the clearing and grubbing contract last year. Clearing is taking place. Utilities are wrapping up their relocations of the utility poles, gas lines, all that type thing. So when the contractor is able to start in October, majority of those utilities will be out of the way, and he can actually get started immediately without having to wait on those utilities. A little bit about future reporting. I know Tom presented, I think, last workshop about the capital projects reporting. We're looking to adopt that same procedures that are here in the Pennies projects as well. It'll include cost of budget, schedule information on each project, and we are in the process of improving our cash flow projections for the Pennies 5 program as well. Now let's switch over to C funds, which is a second bucket of money that we use for roads here in York County. It's a state program. It's money collected through the gas tax that the state then distributes to each county based on a population, roads, and land area formula. You're also aware currently all of our C funds are being committed to SIB projects with the Exit 82, Exit 85, Exit 90 projects. Here's just a quick graph to show you we do collect around $7.5 million a year through C funds. That does fluctuate a little bit based on the amount of gallons of gas that are sold in the county. However, for the current fiscal year, all that $7.5 million is already committed to Exit 85 and Exit 82. Next year, same thing, and then in 2028, we hope to be able to fully fund Exit 82. I will say this is based on our current proposal to the SIB. We've made a suggestion or a recommendation or an ask to the SIB to get some additional funding for the Exit 82 project that would require additional local match, which is the orange lines you see there on the graph. The blue lines are already committed, approved. That was for the additional $16 million when Exit 85 was awarded. That money has already been fully committed, and we're waiting to hear back from the SIB on Exit 82 if we can get that additional funding, which again would require a little bit of an additional local match. Now for kind of the heart of the meat of our program here, our presentation tonight is the county road paving program. So this is a third bucket of money that we want to be able to utilize to continue to pave additional roads, additional miles within the county. So this would be the county road paving program. It would utilize the capital maintenance fund, which is also known as 1422. Over the years, that amount has varied through the years on how much we get each year. With that money we get in our budget, Public Works is able to pave some roads in-house, and then engineering will bid out a separate list of roads to a contractor to be able to perform. Now, a lot of that is based on our road ratings. So we rate our roads internally with our internal staff. We do that every about 3 years or so. And that's basically just based on the pavement condition of each road. Now, when you get your C funds request, we do a little more detail on those road ratings. We talk about number of houses, number of businesses, is it a connector type street? So that's something we do for C fund requests. That's really not realistic on all county roads because there's about 2,000 county roads, the vast majority of those being neighborhood type roads. So we don't feel like it's worth it to give that level of detail on those neighborhood type roads, and those are really built out and have a limited number of volume on it already. And then DOT, so they rate their roads a bit different than we do. And just keep in mind, their roads are the more heavily traveled, more main roads within the county, not so much the neighborhood type roads. Theirs does include different variables, like the traffic volume is one criteria, although they don't get volumes on every single state road. There's too many of them. A lot of the residential ones, they don't get volumes on that. And they get a little more information, like they hire a third-party consultant to basically get a van and ride every road, and it measures the roughness and how much shaking there is. Again, that's probably a resource, be very expensive, maybe not worth it for the county roads since so much of our roads are residential type streets. But what we have done is we've gone through all the county roads and identified approximately 60 roads that we would consider connector streets. So not necessarily a true residential type street, maybe it connects two state roads together or even two county roads, but it's going to have, we think, more of a higher volume than just a typical neighborhood type street. Now, there may be a connector road within a neighborhood. We don't really count that because, again, that's just within a neighborhood. We're looking at more of your larger, higher volume county roads that are going to be true connector type roads. So we've identified those, and we're going to be going through and prioritizing those and getting traffic counts on those roads first that we feel like are the higher volume, more important roads, and we're going to treat those like the C fund roads where we get traffic volumes. We're going to look at number of houses, number of businesses, other type data to pull together that will aid us in being able to determine kind of where to prioritize our funding moving forward in the future. We've heard y'all mention several times about trying to target those higher volume type streets. So that's one thing that'll be able to allow us to identify which of those are kind of the higher volume. So it's not going to be just based on the score, it'll also be based on houses, businesses, traffic volume as well. In addition to that, each year we coordinate with Public Works to see what roads they're getting major requests on. Is there certain roads they get pothole requests or work orders on constantly? We can take that information as well to help us determine which would be the best roads to pave each year.
And y'all, feel free to jump in with any questions if you do have them.
I just want to be clear on this because I appreciate the information. The 60 connector streets, are you saying that out of all of the streets that are county-owned, that only 6 of them are truly like, for lack of a better term, like cul-de-sac homeowner-driven roads? There's only 60?
Roughly 60, yeah. That
And
are
y'all
not
got a list of them that you've prepared and identified that list?
We can send that list out, certainly. We've mapped it out, we've printed out maps of each district, highlighted all the county roads, gone through, visually circled and looked at which ones are true connector. Again, there may be a connector road within a neighborhood that we're not counting that as a connector street because it's within the neighborhood.
It's connecting it to another neighborhood road that's still just neighborhoods?
If it's in a, for example, Paddler's Cove in Lake Wylie, that's a neighborhood road, but that is a very heavily traveled road. You have the park, so we're counting that as a connector road due to the volume of it. Boat Shore Road by Ebenezer Park, that's a neighborhood road, but due to the volume and connectivity to the park, we're including that as a neighborhood type road. As a connector type road. So just because it connects 2 roads doesn't mean we're treating that as a true connector. Because if it's within a neighborhood, it's still going to be limited on the amount of vehicles that travel on that road every day. Now if it connects one neighborhood to a second neighborhood, like Paddler's Cove will do once the back part is built, we will treat those as a connector street. There's 1 or 2 in Baxter. It's within a neighborhood in Baxter, but it's a main spine road within the neighborhood in Baxter that's going to connect roads. So there's certain ones that are in neighborhoods that we do count as connector if it's a major, maybe connecting 2 parts of the neighborhood together.
Is there a traffic count number that can help give us a picture of kind of like what some of these roads may look like?
So I know Paddler's Cove, for example, we did traffic counts on that one a few years back. It had over 2,000 cars a day. And that's largely due to Field Day Park. I'd say that our highest travel road, we don't have counts on it, but I would say it's probably Regent Parkway in Fort Mill. That's the main connector going over Lancaster County. We're going to get counts on that. We don't have them yet. But most of your neighborhood roads are going to be probably 500 cars or less each day.
And that's a great question, because one of our commitments is try to provide more data for y'all. So what Patrick's sharing here is, we know that there's 60 roads that we need to get better data on. And we're committed to getting better data to inform decisions through this. And so if we're able to say, all right, maybe not all 528, lane miles, but at least the 60 connector streets, we're gonna do a better job collecting data
Yeah.
so that we can drill into what needs to be done first. And I think that's what
Yeah,
we're wanting to share tonight.
As part of the map that you've done online with showing the roads in some of the automation you've put out there as far as roads that are out there, if that's a great variable, if you can add in traffic count on each of those roads, because I think that's gonna help to understand or sell it to the public when we're having these conversations.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Patrick, for interest's sake, which district has the most county roads? I know I got the most miles of state roads, but
The most miles, I believe 2 and 3 are the 2 highest in terms of miles of county roads. I don't have that exact number, but
I think as you're gathering the information, I think it would also be helpful at some point. So, I like the idea of going ahead and honing in on the roads that are connector roads, and kind of identifying what that is, and starting with the 60 obviously is important with the traffic count. But when you're doing the neighborhoods as well, I think eventually what I think our spreadsheet should include is something that also identifies how many homes are impacted by the other roads too. Just at least to have a number.
homes that use that same road every single day. So that'd be an example of a road we'd want to also get information on. So that'd probably be phase 2 of going into the neighborhoods and seeing, okay, what's the main road or the most heavily traveled roads within each neighborhood?
Are any of these 60 on here, though, connecting into like new developments at all, or are these existing developments?
Right now, it's all going to be existing roads.
Okay.
If there's a new development comes on, then we can evaluate that at that time as well.
Right, yeah. So I think there's an opportunity with these new developments too, to look at adequate facilities. Again, opportunity for us to get them to participate in some of these road paving projects, if it's, something that would be impactful.
Okay. All right, moving on. So here's just a quick example. This is obviously neighborhood type streets. You're gonna have, this is off Dobie's Bridge in Fort Mill. Pretty much every road in that neighborhood is a cul-de-sac. So this is kind of the extreme example of neighborhood roads, where literally every road ends in a cul-de-sac. Then here, in the middle road, Parish Road there, I believe this is in District 5, maybe, either 3 or 5. Anyway, so the road in the middle, Parish Road, that is a connector road to a state road on the north side and a state road on the south side too. So that's a prime example of a connector road. It also has houses that live along there as well. So this is gonna be one where we're gonna get more information. I don't think there's any businesses on this road, but there are a number of houses, and it does connect 2 state roads. So this is an example of one where we're gonna go put the tubes out and get some traffic counts on. So when we do our road ratings, we're not so much as concerned about the exact score, whether it's a 57 or a 52. That's getting into the weeds a bit. What we want to know is what category does it fall in. So we want to break our county roads down into 3 different categories: good, fair, and poor. So your good roads is going to have typically a score of 71 to 100, 100 being a brand new best road. Those are the good categories. That's going to be, any work we do on those type roads is going to be some type of preservation treatment, maybe a thin lift overlay, maybe some crack seal, something of that type, just to be able to extend that life even further for a very low cost based on the length of the road. Then we have fair, which is going to be around the 45 to 70 range in our score. This is going to be more of a type, there's going to be some wear and tear on the asphalt, not really a whole lot of structural failure, but maybe some fatigue and cracking on the surface, where we can do a mill and fill, where we just take off 2 inches and put 2 inches back on, or maybe we come in and do some spot patching and then come back with an overlay of a couple inches on top. That's going to be in the $500,000 range. And these numbers are very loosely estimated. There's still more variables that go into that, but it could be 500, it could be 400, it could be 550. That's just a ballpark of what we're looking at. Then the poor condition is the worst, 0 to 44. This is when there's full base failure. We got to go in and do reclamation, rebuild the entire road. This is our most expensive type of repair. Again, 800 grand's a ballpark, could be 650. There's other variables that go into it, but that's the most expensive one to be able to go in and repair. So what we want to be able to do is select roads in each category each year that we do paving. So we want to be able to keep those good roads good, those fair roads. We want to address the roads that are in fair condition before they get to the poor condition, because our costs could essentially almost double once they get down into that poor condition. So here's a list of a table showing the total number of DOT miles, center lane miles, and York County center lane miles in each district. I guess, Tommy, this answered your question from earlier. Miles in each district, and then at the bottom you can see the state has almost 3 times as many miles of center lane miles, which of course their lane miles for DOT is much higher than that due to all the 3 and 5 lane roads that are in the county. So
Patrick, on those center line miles, are you including gravel roads?
No, that's paved roads only.
Can we get an idea? I think
About
it would
200
be
miles
important to know.
of gravel.
Yeah, I'd like to
give or
know.
take.
I think we need to add that in there because they are still county roads. If-
The county. And here's just a quick map. The green roads are state roads, the county. And here's just a quick map. The green roads are state roads, the purple are county. You can kind of see the distribution of the county roads on that map. And going back to our ratings, so going back to 2022, and then we did ratings again earlier this year, you can see a slight drop, 59 average score to 57 average score overall for the county. Each district is broken down on there as well for you to see. But we have seen a decline in our overall condition for county roads, which is one of the main reasons we're here tonight to talk about planning for the future. So this pie chart here really summarizes our roads. You can see the poor, good, and fair conditions on there. Close to about a third each, a little more in fair. I do want to point out, though, the fair is almost 40%, which is not bad, but what we're concerned about is in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, a lot of those roads that are currently in the fair condition are going to drop down into that poor condition. which again, as I said earlier, that cost drastically increases to make those repairs if they get down into the poor condition. So we really want to be able to address those before they get into the poor condition, or it's just going to cost that much more to make those repairs. Again, the good, we still want to treat some roads that are in good condition each year. It's not going to be, we're not going to spend as much money on those type roads. We do want to put some money into those each year to be able to preserve those roads, to prevent them from getting into the fair condition. And again, the cost is significantly less per mile to do a preservation type treatment versus a mill and fill, and especially a reclamation. So I mentioned earlier about the Public Works has been able to pave some roads in-house for us. Here's a look back at the last few years. They can do around 2 miles of roads each year. Now their cost is significantly less than what it's going to cost for us to bid it out. So that's one thing that has benefited us and can also help us achieve a higher mileage each year, in addition to our bidding out roads to get them to do some in-house as well. So that's about $300,000 a mile. They're typically going to do more of the mill and fill or patch and overlay type roads. So the roads in that fair category, those are the type roads that Public Works is targeting to do. We don't have the capability to do reclamation in-house.
Patrick, on the previous slide, the poor roads, maybe it's two back, backwards, I'm sorry. 30% poor, are those the shorter roads typically?
Not necessarily.
No? Okay.
It's just, I guess we could look up and see the average length of those roads, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a shorter road.
Okay, can you go to the next slide where you were previously? So looking at the savings, 733,000 versus 1.1 million, why wouldn't we allocate more monies towards Public Works, paving, repairing
Yep,
more of our
I'll let-
roads, so that we spend less money with contractors for maybe the smaller projects, and use them for larger projects?
I think that's something we're exploring, and later in the slides, you'll see that's one of our ideas, to continue to work with Public Works. I know Kevin and our Public Works Director, Eric Reckett, are going to be working on potentially looking at what it would take to expand what we're able to do. But there is a law of diminishing returns, and at some point, you got to invest more in the equipment.
That's right.
And you got to be able to hire the people. And so the question is, how much more capacity do we have currently with the staff we have and the equipment we have? And then what's the cost benefit of adding that? I think that's something that, Kevin, you can speak to if you want, or council know that we're committed to doing that analysis in time for the budget process.
Just off the top of my head, just like you mentioned, if you're gonna get to a diminishing return, because sooner or later, because now you got personnel, you got equipment, that 303 is gonna quickly go, the 733, it's gonna start to escalate, because you got personnel, you got insurance, you got benefits, you got equipment.
But I
So
think
if we were doing this full-time with more people, that's gonna be a totally
if we can
different cost.
proportionally increase the amount of roads we do and take this next steps, I think of a stair-step approach. Because right now, we get that $2 million allocation into the 1422 fund. Public Works is gonna bite off as much as they can chew, and then engineering bids out the rest. What Eric is working on right now, and as we get into the budget workshops, we'll talk more about this, what is gonna be the next cost? Equipment and personnel. And we're gonna do that in such a manner where we're, again, we're taking another step. And the ratio should stay similar, because we're biting off a big chunk. We're going to do a lot more roads as well. And we're going to look at what's the next step and what's the step beyond that. We can't do it all in 1 year, but over the next 5 to 7 years, I would expect to see us invest a lot more money in that, because we get a great return on the work they do. And they do a very good job of the work they do as well. And we can oversee that and control the quality as well.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So kind of to piggyback on part of that with Public Works, so I guess our 5-year plan looking ahead, first step we need recurring funding each year. Obviously for Public Works to do some in-house, for us to be able to bid out roads as well. The intent is what we do is we take the 1422 money and we combine that with any county roads that are selected with C funds, and we bid that out together. That helps us get a higher quantity, which gets a better unit price in our bid. So we're combining those funding sources to reach our higher mileage. Again, we want to pave roads in all 3 categories. This is gonna spread the money out, some would help us stretch a little further versus just doing all reclamation-type roads. Those are the most expensive ones. We wanna do some in the fair and some in the good. That'll allow us to increase our miles that we're impacting each year as well. And then, of course, Public Works, paving in-house, can do a number of miles, working to increase their abilities to be able to do additional miles each year. So, don't let this chart scare you, but this is what a stair-stepped approach would look like. Again, you see the numbers at the bottom, those are high dollar amounts, but we want to combine C funds with general fund money. So after we are finished making our SIB commitments, the intent would be to take a portion of C funds each year to commit to county roads, combine with 1422 funding, put that together, and being able to come up with enough funding to be able to get close to that 15-mile goal that we have. Any questions on that?
No, that's great.
I mean, at some point, you said you're going to bring this back once y'all have done the analysis on the connector roads and have a proposal about how you see us getting there? Is that what we're talking about?
I think the proposal is again, using roads from all three categories. Getting the additional data is going to help us better determine which roads to pick each year.
Right?
But ultimately, it comes down to funding and having a plan moving, touch on that
Okay.
here towards the end, yes, to be able to get us started for next fiscal year.
Is this 15 miles going to be in-house and contractor?
Yes,
Or is that
it's,
just in-house?
it's in-house, it's bidding out with C funds and bidding out with 1422. Yes, sir. Okay. So with that, I will hand it back over to Tom, and he will,
So
Wrap
Patrick,
it
I do
up.
have one quick question.
yes, sir.
You know, and we've talked about this before, you know, in regards to where we have DOT coming in there and having to do some work, such as on Carolyn's Boulevard going underneath the interstate there. Huge issue because it's just
Yep.
getting worse by the day. How do we approach that to try to, you know, move that type of work up? I mean, because that is it's a small location, a small, but it's got a major impact.
Certainly. So I know
for
on that
location.
particular location, that section of Carowinds is under contract to be repaved.
Okay.
And once they bid it out, it's basically up to the contractor to determine his schedule of the order, because it's going to be included with 8 or 10, 12 other roads as well, all in one bid package.
Right.
So unless DOT specifies in the bid package what order to do the roads in, it's up to the contractor to determine his schedule and the roads he does.
Yeah, do we have an ability to put a recommendation?
We
in?
can, if we know the roads before they bid out, we can certainly request that. They're not obligated to put them in any type of order, because the more restrictions you give on a contractor, the higher the price is gonna be.
Yeah.
But I know in that particular location, they're basically gonna wait for the contractor to come in. I don't think the contractor would come in, patch one small area, and then leave.
Right.
They wanna do the whole road all at once. But if we know, again, problem areas, we can discuss that with DOT ahead of time prior to the bid. We do meet with the district office every month.
Okay.
So we do know their upcoming roads that they have.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that doesn't mean they're gonna listen to us and actually require that.
Right,
in the
well,
contract.
whatever you can do to bring light to
Certainly.
that, that's critical.
Is that going to be part of the widening of 21?
No, ma'am,
You
that's
think
a
it's
separate. Separate.
Because it looks to me like it's kind of,
I think it goes
Going hand in
from,
hand,
I think
but-
it goes from the off-ramp at exit 90 back towards North Carolina, under the interstate back
Right,
towards Carolina.
right. It's not a large section, but it's a critical.
yeah, it is.
Patrick, I appreciate you doing
Thank
that, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Well done. All right, this is kind of where the rubber hits the road, no pun intended, with regard to setting up the framework where Patrick has really created the foundation for it with the information that you've heard already. So when we talk about delivery, we need to think about some guiding principles, and these are just, you may say, notes I've made in the past when I've had to be involved in discussions about roads, whether they're local, state, federal. But this is what we have to think about. Roads aren't a luxury, they're a necessity. And if we have a better road system, it allows us to have more community pride. And the big thing is that we have to try not to make too many sacrifices so we can invest in good roads so the cost won't be higher tomorrow. So, this is where the framework lies. Patrick discussed 15 miles within 5 years, and building that 15 miles up to a plateau where it'll reoccur from year to year. We have a specific goal. We want to bring all of the roads that are in poor condition up to a fair or good condition, but we want to raise the overall rating from 57 to 70. That's where we want to be by year 5. We talked about increasing public works capacity to do more internal work. And yes, Kevin is correct. I think we have to find what our marginal rate of productivity is with public works and try to find that pinch point where there aren't diminishing returns and that where we can be competitive, not necessarily competitive, but comparable, but not exactly duplicate or mimic what contractors do. And from what I've seen of the local road work that the Public Works Department does, or the division, they really do an outstanding job. But Kevin and Patrick are both right. It's going to take some more resources, whether it's equipment or labor, and then we have to determine what our cap is or our MRP. Now, the word delivery is important, or deliver is important. And I think what we're going to try to do and work very hard on over the next 5 years, and that's management, public assistance and guidance too, we want to make sure that we create a project delivery culture. I talked about that at the workshop last month because the fewer delays we have, the quicker that we can expedite projects, even though that we're going to need more resources through the next few years. I can say that we all of the groups that I've mentioned, have a commitment that's pure to deliver projects that are on time and at or under budget, and that's just another way to stretch precious dollars. We talked about improving progress reporting mechanisms. That'll help achieve the step above. And management is committed to going into the next budget cycle to try to allocate $4 million a year instead of $2 million a year from Fund 1422. We also have to consider and examine and look at alternative funding to help address growth. A couple of good examples may be, even though they may not be particularly attractive to some, the possibility of looking at impact fees for roads, adequate public facility ordinances. Of course, if new state or federal grants become available, even though we are working in a very constrained environment right now, considering what's happening in DC and to some degree in Columbia. And I think another bullet point that I have omitted in this slide is that Patrick talked about it briefly, we have to consider using pavement preservation techniques, the crack seal, slurry seal, and the other types of devices that he spoke of.
I got a
Now, ma'am,
quick question.
sir, pardon me.
On this next steps thing, this may or may not be where this goes, but is there going to be an evaluation or maybe some thoughts on not taking in any more subdivision roads so that it doesn't continue to build this backlog of roads we have? Is there any thoughts on that, future?
Yes, that was one of the items identified in the infrastructure goal as an initiative to explore that. That is a year 2 goal for us, or a year 2 initiative. So we are going to be undertaking that this fiscal year to evaluate the pros and cons, and ultimately, engineering and public works will provide some type of recommendation to management and I imagine that would ultimately get to council, but that is going to be evaluated this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, and I can appreciate where that can become a very sensitive policy question because there's going to be some pros and cons on both sides. I know in my experience, while it is desirable to relieve some public responsibility, placement or especially maintenance, I think in order for maintenance and resurfacing and, paving and pavement preservation to occur, you've got to have a very strong HOA or POA in place in order to do that. And historically, just in my experience, a lot of HOAs and POAs start out very strong, but they tend to peter out over time. So I think if there's going to be a policy discussion about that, like Patrick said, we have to weigh pros and cons and look at all of the angles. It's not impossible, but you have to make sure that the community is responsible or responsive to it if they're going to take responsibility for that kind of infrastructure. And then the other potential conflict that could occur, in my opinion, is perhaps, at least, say up in the Lake Wiley area or wherever we have water utility infrastructure, if you have published that. But it is a conversation worthy of discussion.
Tom, I have a question.
Sir?
So when we look at districts 3 and 2 as an example, when you go in and you improve the road quality, do we know what the cost is 3 years, 5 years, 7 years out? The unintentional consequences of improving an area that attracts people to that area. Is there any correlation?
I would probably defer to Patrick as a professional engineer, but it depends on different variables, certainly traffic volume. But it may even go to another extreme, is how well was the base of the road put in. If you've got a road with a poor base, poor aggregates, it wasn't installed properly, there's failures over cross pipes or utility pipes, there's so many variables that could occur, but I'd rather rely on an expert to be more profound about it.
Certainly, yeah, so a couple items on that. Our intent would be to get traffic volumes again on these roads every 3 to 5 years probably. So that'll tell us one thing about, is there an increase in traffic on certain roads? Is there new developments nearby? Is there more traffic? Is there more truck traffic? Truck traffic really impacts roads the most. If it's designed and built for like a residential type street, and now it becomes a major cut through with trucks and whatnot, then that road's gonna deteriorate much faster. So that's something we would evaluate over time through our traffic counts. And our traffic counts would really signal any type of change in pattern or driver behavior with an increase in volume.
Okay.
I have a quick question. I know we're talking about just dealing with county-owned roads or county-maintained roads. I'd like to know what our counterparts and partners, our municipalities are doing to combat these issues that's going to be obviously connecting to some of these county roads. Because I know we're still going to get the calls. It may be a city road, it may be a state road, but if we have municipalities who are not participating in trying to keep up their part, we're still going to get the calls whether it's our road or not. Because this is not just going to be a county issue. This is a county-wide issue, but it's not solely a York County issue. Because just paving 5, 6, 7 miles a year, trying to get up to 15, we still gonna have a long way to go. Even if we hit our goal, we still got a lot of roads out there that we're not even gonna get to touch for the next 20 years. So we're gonna need our colleagues and our counterparts and our partners to help maintain their municipality, their city roads as much as they can. So I'd like to know what's York doing to combat road issues, what's Rock Hill, and a dollar amount. How much are these municipalities putting towards?
Yeah, I do know Rock Hill specifically, I have talked to them. They have around 200 miles of paved roads, and they do probably around 1.2 million each year is what they allocate out of their general fund. And then they also look for C funds to allocate some towards their city street.
Of city-maintained roads get pushed in to try to get covered on the C funds, And my thing is, we all gonna do our part to obviously cover some of the city roads, some of the state maintained roads, but we gotta make sure that we're putting a good bit of our C funds towards some of our county roads, because these municipalities are gonna have to help carry the water in the bucket on a lot of the stuff. They just can't lean on C funds to pave all their city roads. Because I know my list each year with city roads have grown and grown and grown. And you try to get a few of them in, and we have to pave so many state roads each year collectively. But we don't want these city roads to keep piling up on us because they're cutting or they're not doing their fair share to help us with these road pavings.
I would like to say, I'm very thankful for the information. I think this is good information. It seems to be very centered on county roads. The majority of the roads that folks complain about, for the most part, are state roads, which is, you know, to Bump's point, what I'd like to see, and I like the idea of the way that you've divided up between connector and residential, because that way we can break down and identify, I mean, the greatest impact. But the categories, I think we also need to use this to help with our state roads that are in the unincorporated areas, to be able to identify and translate that into the same spreadsheet that we're talking about, to rate the roads and be able to track them to see where are we on DOT's register when it comes to where our roads are. That's the way that we're going to be able to help identify what roads do we need to be putting on pennies for progress in the future, what roads, when we make decisions about C funds, which roads are the worst, which ones are on the horizon to being paved. We don't want to go grabbing those roads. We also, it would be helpful before, when we sit down and make decisions about C fund money, knowing what DOT is doing. So for instance, a lot of times what I have been doing after talking with Jason Johnston is identifying what roads they're reclaiming. They don't have enough to do the repaving, is adding the repaving part, because that extends the life of the road. But I guess I don't want to lose sight of the fact that I think this is great for a start. I think this is a great way for us to start our strategic plan and identifying it for the county side. We've really got to jump on the state side too, because those are the roads that really carry most of the traffic. And how do we start advocating, using that information to advocate at the state level for additional funding, and to be able to better track where those roads are coming up, because it's DOT's responsibility to maintain those roads. But if that makes sense.
I got a question. It's for Kevin. Over the years, I know it'd be expensive and some liability because it takes a little knowledge in the mix and all, but has the county ever looked into it?
Eric and I have actually talked about that. That's an expensive endeavor.
Yeah.
It might be worth it or not, but we've had that discussion, and that's one of the things that we're gonna analyze as we prepare for the budget workshop and talk about those various steps. Because somewhere down the road, that becomes one of our biggest bottlenecks, is the availability of asphalt. But, you know, I've got to get some more data on what that cost would be. And, you know, it's a fine line too. We want to make sure we're doing that for ourselves, and we're not trying to compete with the people that, the private sector making asphalt as
Right.
well.
Plus, it's a little bit of science involved in getting it right, as far as the mix and the temperatures.
Making it.
Supply and demand.
And last bit, the safety portion, I think it would be helpful in the connector roads to include safety, since that's what DOT does, as one of their markers. Are we good with that first topic? No other questions from council? All right. Next item on the agenda is discussion regarding planning and development service initiatives.
Thank you again, council members. In the interest of time, I'm going to be brief. I'm going to go a cappella, no slides tonight. But I did see that you got a handout, and it's, some of you may recognize the tabular information in terms of the initiatives plan that we're working with planning and development services. I've made some emboldened notes to show some forms of progress or completion of where we're at. And I've also included in the package just a couple of examples of, number one, a customer service. Well, no, actually, there's three things, pardon me. First, there is the Customer Bill of Rights, that is in progress of being rewritten and posted on the website. You may recall, or if you've observed, the Planning and Development page, they have a Customer Bill of Rights that talks about the department's responsibilities, but also customer responsibilities. And I think if we're going to turn around the human connection, we've been working on taking away customer responsibilities, and we're going to focus instead on what the department's responsibilities are. And if you do a comparison, you'll note that we're trying to put some of the nomenclature in less jargon and be more people-friendly in just the words that we use. And just a few emails that have come in my experience here in 9 months, there are positive comments that come in through audio messages or emails. It's my way of collecting receipts, if you will. And I would say in that 9 months that I've been here, we've probably pulled together, or I've received from Mr. Bono, at least 24 of them. But they continue to come in. And I just wanted to use that as a demonstration that sometimes we do get some positive comments and responses and appreciation. Those are oftentimes a lot more quiet or silent compared to folks who may have complaints or other types of issues. But I wanted to say briefly that if you look at this plan, the thing that I've been trying to focus on initially is the human side of it. That is communications, not just with customers or clients, but internal communications, trying to work on email communications. And then the other side is obviously the service side. And I'm kind of pushing back some of the codes and the reporting issues because I don't feel like culturally that we can go in with the proper mindset until we know that what we're trying to do on the human side with ourselves, with the council, with the public is up and going and has some rhythm and momentum. But just to list a few brief examples of what's going on there. Of course, I gave you the example of revising the Customer Bill of Rights. PDS is actively working with Human Resources to find some outside training opportunities that will hit and appeal to everybody in the department, because a lot of folks have different disciplines that they work in. But in the meantime, Mr. Bruno has taken the initiative, and they have a quarterly all-hands-on-deck meeting. And in addition to various types of subject matter, they always try to do some type of internal training or make presentations to acquaint each other with their work tasks, where they talked for well over an hour about empathy and how to connect with people better. And they did some role-playing and some other interesting exercises. Mr. Madden and I, along with PDS, very shortly we're going to be looking at the renovation of the customer service counter. And if you've been there, you probably noticed those big protective windows. We want to open that part of the lobby up. We want it to be more intimate, for lack of a better word. We want people to feel like they're connecting person to person instead of through a barrier. And even though it was somewhat in place, whether it's a planner on duty or a planner of the day, every day now, PDS is always making sure that there's a qualified planner or a planning technician who can be there as a backup or to help out many of the ladies who work at the customer service window who can't often answer highly technical questions related to the codes. So we wanted to have that kind of presence too. And as well, I'm trying to initiate a program where particularly I go out, because I like to go out and visit people and see things. You know, Councilman Adkins knows, and maybe many of you, that when there's a complaint filed, I actually like to see what's going on in the field. Well, Mr. Bolin and I, the stormwater director, on Thursday, we plan to go out to a site and talk to a contractor. But in the meantime, not only Mr. Bolin, but other members of the planning, or other employees, managers, supervisors, if you will, of PDS, they are working on a schedule for different kinds of community outreach. I know of 3 circumstances where stormwater in late September is going to have a training session with HOAs. They've actively gone out and reached out to the various HOAs in the community, and that topic, a specific topic, is going to be talking about HOA maintenance responsibilities that are consistent with our stormwater code. I think a session is being scheduled. I believe it's with the York Home Builders Association, and I know that Marion Ray, I think, is having a similar get-together, if you will, with all of the land surveyors, since she's responsible for looking and managing a lot of plats. And then, of course, I have begun trying to have a presence in the building over there, not to be some Lord Overseer, but hopefully more so a coach, a mentor. You know, I want to be able to engage with the employees. I want to see how they engage with in the public, and they have been very, very open and to all of my overtures and to this plan. I sat in a meeting recently where one of the complaints that we get frequently is when contractors, homeowners, developers receive review comments by email, and often the review comments recite what's in the code. They're highly technical, there's some language. And I've sat through at least one meeting where PDS management really leaned into looking at different kinds of comments for different kinds of situations. And they are actively working with their people to try to simplify it. So, okay, in the final analysis, there's still a lot of work left to do. I would like to think we've won a few battles, but we haven't won the war yet, and we are going to win the war. We want to make sure, and I'm sure this is the case for every department in the county, but we want PDS to give excellent service, so that will enable them to be better technical assistants to management and to council, and there's no alternative. It's simply going to happen. Any
Tom,
questions?
I appreciate the information and going over this chart. I think a lot of these initiatives are critically important to the community and the people that we serve. One of the most important things to me, at least initially, is the online customer survey. And are you, with the customer bill of rights, is that something that's going to be posted in the office where the public comes in?
Yes.
And when do you anticipate that survey being rolled out?
I think we'd like to finalize that discussion by next week's. PDS management meets once a week, usually every Tuesday, and I think we'd like to get some final resolution to that. But I also want to make sure that the customer bill of rights is posted prominently in the lobby of the building. I'd love to see everybody have it in a picture frame on their desk. We've got to believe in what we're doing. And then likewise with the survey, I'd like to offer, even though I think at first blush it's a very well constructed survey, because I think we were trying to pose questions that will help us improve. But if any of you all have any kind of input or feedback that you'd like to give to it, it's certainly welcome.
Tom, real quick. You know, a lot of times people have quick questions, right? And all the information is really housed within our website and under different file sets and stuff like that. Has there been any discussion to just have an Ask Chat that you just to go and they'll plug their question in like an AI background?
A little bot, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just have, Ask York, right? You can name it Ask York. And just put the question in, they can get, an AI component can just go through the data sets, look for the answer, give it to them. For further assistance, then press 1, or whatever it may be, you know, that's something that I
I
think,
think
and a
that's
lot of our
something we
companies
could
use that.
discuss with
so.
IT, perhaps, David?
So interestingly enough, we are exploring that currently.
Okay.
We're developing an internal AI environment for the county to use, and also exploring methods that we could incorporate that into our website that would answer some of those commonly asked questions.
Yeah.
That it could actually
Make sure it's
query and
right.
search a lot of our documentation, even our ordinances, and provide that, so it would be kind of a manpower, increase.
Yeah.
Tom,
No
I asked,
way.
I hate to go back to my other question. Will you let council know when you plan to roll out the customer survey and let us know how council can get feedback, how you plan to get feedback, and will everyone who interacts, will they have that QR code? Will they have the opportunity to provide that feedback?
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Tom.
Well, I'll just close by saying failure is not an option.
Great job.
Yeah, nice job, Tom.
Is there an AI county manager out there anywhere?
They haven't developed it yet.
Hey,
Maybe in 10
hey.
years.
Exactly, exactly.
Undoubtedly,
Hey.
they ain't watching the same thing that
Yeah.
I'm seeing. Try to get a truck fixed. And you sitting there with your diagnostic, and AI is only as good as the question that is asked.